Kia ora te whānau, we're live. Altbays show brought to you by Altbays.nz. This is show 206. Can I have some claps there? Wow, what a crowd. Thank you so much for watching us every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. The Altbays supports the Korero magazine behind me. So if you want a good read, make sure to access korominds.nz. Or if you are lucky and you live in the beautiful Coromando, we deliver the magazine all over in the main establishments, cafes, and supermarkets. So make sure to go and pick up a copy. This month we have Monique Rush on the cover. Beautiful artist. She runs an art gallery in Whitianga. Shout out, Monique. Thank you so much. And we invite beautiful people from the community to write, to share their thoughts, their ideas. So if you want to collaborate, writing or illustrating some of those pieces, get in touch. hello@koromind.nz. On my left, Kia ora, Roimata.
Kia ora, bro. Kia ora koutou. Back again.
Back again.
Loving this little studio.
Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very happy
Juiced.
with my juice.
Very juiced.
Yes,
Nice.
very juiced.
How is the when I see you most of the time, we are having a jam, we're singing, we're playing some music, and I get to see your artwork when it's ready. I haven't got the chance yet to experience you actually working. So 2 questions there. Would you do that when other people are around? You have your sacred space that it's you doing your art, and how is that going?
Yeah. So if there's people around, I normally just hang with them because I kind of need. I draw between maybe 7 o'clock in the evening till 5 o'clock in the morning is when I do most of my pen to paper. But having said that, I can sit in a room with, people rummaging around and play on my little iPad and draw those as well. But I do prefer the pen to paper.
Does it come to you at specific times of the year or life, or it's an exercise for you? You always crafting that? You always.
It's just always happening. Even when I'm not drawing, it's drawing. So when I get there, it's like, as soon as I'm sitting there and I've got the paper in front of me and the pen in my hand, that's where it wants to start. So I'll start drawing over here. Then I come down here and start drawing. And before I know it, I get 3/4 of the way and go, okay, now I know what I'm drawing. Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Bro, it's a pleasure to have you here. A very special show tonight. I'm glad you said yes. And I'm even happier that Mr. Michael Smither said yes. Kia ora, Michael.
Kia ora. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah. These occasions are quite nerve-wracking for me.
Oh, man, I'm not alone.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, God.
You say come along and be interviewed on Thursday night, and so if you say that to me like 2 weeks ago, I'll have been thinking about that ever since.
Right.
What the bloody hell am I going to say? And how's this going to go? And then I think, well, it'll go the way it goes. Of course, probably a lot of idiots running the show anyway.
Yes! Oh, man, I got some cool idiots, man. Some top ones, some top dogs for you, man. Don't worry. Michael, do you get nervous about should I say socializing? Artists usually have this thing of being very comfortable with themselves, with their art. When it comes to spaces with a lot of people, do you avoid crowds?
I probably do these days. Yeah. I'm not very good with crowds of people. My hearing doesn't let me be very good. I get confused with what people are saying, and they say one thing, and I think they say something, and I've interpreted the exact wrong thing.
Right.
So there we go. Anything can happen.
What about music? What about going to a show, a performance? Is it something that you fancy?
I love going to concerts, but there's not all that many concerts that come around this way that I go to. The New Zealand Trio comes through here usually once a year, and I go and listen to them. And also the Auckland Youth Orchestra. They come, and I've got a young girl who's just started to work for that orchestra as a cellist, and I've actually written some cello work for her in the past, so it's really nice to hear that she's now up there with the big boys.
Nice. Nice. That's super cool.
Hey, what a privilege to get a piece written by you. That's awesome. Were you always into classical music, or it's something that is growing as you change styles and preferences?
Yeah, I was always into it. My mother and father were good friends with members of the National Orchestra, as it used to be called in those days. And they used to come around for drinks after the show, and I got to actually meet them on the stage and talk to them about their instruments, their violins and violas in this case. And so I was right in at the deep end, really right from the start. I just loved orchestras. I loved being in amongst them. I mean, something like for a person of my age at that stage, I would have been 8 or 9, I suppose, going to meet the lady that plays the harp.
Wow.
So that sort of hands-on experience was terrific. And yes, most of it's classical music.
Do you like listening to music while painting?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I usually have a record player going flat out there. Mahler or Stravinsky or somebody like that.
Some punk rock?
No.
Damn, I was about to give you an album.
Yeah.
I was ready. Damn.
And it would have been signed too.
You would be, yeah.
there you
Damn.
go.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We can make a frisbee out of it.
You could. My son Joseph is probably more into punk rock and stuff than I am. He has a band called Mad Cow
Whoa!
in Taranaki. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a great name. Mad Cow.
Yeah, and it's a sort of, and he grew up listening to me play the piano, and I've actually done drawings of him on his knees by the piano stool, writing music down that I was getting him to write.
Wow.
So it's, and nowadays I have his daughter Ruby, who started her own band at school, and she sent me a lovely drawing of a kawa leaf the other day. And she has had a concert of her band. This is 4 or 5 girls, from the school, and they had 100 people to the concert. So, so it sort of seems to be running in the family quietly.
Awesome. The whole Whitianga was there. The whole 100 people. Nice. Cool.
This was in Taranaki. Yeah, but that's much the same situation.
Yes, I want to talk about Taranaki. I just want to say, before we dive deep into this beautiful korero, I can see it's going to be a good one. I just want to say thank you to Cooked Coromando for bringing us beautiful kai. Did you guys enjoy the food?
Absolutely.
Everybody happy?
Yeah, very good.
Good food. Hey, so if you're coming to the Coromando to visit, or if you live here, make sure to check them out. Cooked Coromando, we'll have them on our screen, and their social media, it's pretty good, it's very prolific. They're very active on their social media, so make sure to check them out. They cater for everyone: vegans, meat eaters, tequila drinkers. We miss that tequila, eh, Michael? I'll bring it back for the tequila, man, don't worry. All right, let's do this. Michael Duncan Smither CNZM, which is New Zealand Order of Merit.
Yes.
Shout out. 83 years old? Correct?
Yes.
It's a prominent New Zealand painter and composer. He was educated at New Plymouth Boys High School and Elam School of Fine Arts in Auckland, where he discovered his affinity for lacquer-based paint.
Yes. I did some lacquer-based.
Nice. Throughout his career...
Car paint.
Carpet. Oh, I need a hand, bro. I'm glad. Oh, I needed someone to help me. Now I know.
And usually because it dries fast.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You got it on and it's dry.
You got to know what to do. You got to be
You have to know what you're doing, or pretend you know what you're doing anyway.
Throughout his career, Smither has worked in various media, including oils, acrylics, and screen prints. His art often focuses on domestic life and landscapes, particularly the Taranaki region, where he grew up. Notable works like The Family in the Van and Rocks with Mountain have become iconic pieces in New Zealand's art scene. Mr. Smither is highly dedicated to his craft. He's a prolific artist who also produced screen prints with his father in the past. His paintings are known for their representational hard-edge style, evolving over the years to pay meticulous attention to details. There's much more, but I'm not going to bother reading it because you're in front of me. So why?
I've heard it all before.
You heard it all before, right?
Several times.
I know, right? And you're not getting confused yet, so that's good. You still know that it's you, right?
Come up with a good question.
Roimata, so you started, man. Good question. Have you got something for Mr. Smither? I got a list, man, but Roimata is there listening, very polite.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. I love just sitting here listening and have I got any questions? I do actually, now that I know that your son and your granddaughter have their own bands. What instruments do they play?
Guitar.
Both guitarists?
Both guitarists. My son Joseph is a very good guitarist, yeah.
Nice.
And he and I have done a lot of work together because I've taken pieces that I've written and translated them to pieces for the guitar. So there is a book of our pieces together.
So you write or create symphony type music?
No. I've never written for. Well, I have written for a symphony, but that was a way ago, a long time ago, and that was sort of like commissioned.
Right.
I did a thing with a very famous choreographer, Jamie Bull, her name is, and we worked together on a series of images and sounds and dance and stuff called, what do they call it? I can't remember now. Sound, Light and Dance or something. Yeah.
Yep.
And they were great. Yeah, enjoyed that. And I actually had an orchestra play those. So I wrote the piano pieces and then I took them to the guy who was going to sort of oversee it, and I got him to rescore it for orchestra. So to say that I have written for orchestras, incorrect, but I have written where orchestras have played my work. Just to get it straight. Nice. Otherwise some bugger will come up and give me hell.
What came first to you? Was it the painting, the more of the visual arts, or the music?
The visual arts. My father made a living as a screen printer, doing posters for shops and various things like that. He was quite inventive. He did one work that he had where we balanced it on the top of a bottle and it drank from the bottle, you know. That was one of his inventions. And but I was surrounded by him doing that sort of thing. You know, I mean, I was an only child in a situation where there was very few other people who were interested in the arts. And so I was immersed in it from a very early age. Very early, you know. He made my first violin at 5, I think, out of cardboard, you know. He was an inventive man. We made a canoe together out of cardboard. It unfortunately got wet and soaked, sank. I've got some wonderful photographs of it sinking. So, yeah.
Postmodern.
Yeah, so so painting or making things, creative things, was a large part of my life. And behind that, I had my mother, who was a gardener and a collector of bits and pieces. You know, she liked to collect blue and white pottery. So, so I had the two of them behind me. I had my mother's 3 aunts. Sisters, yes.
Shout out, Gian. Yeah.
Yeah. And they became nuns, and so they were involved in the educational and creative aspect of learning. Whenever I went to visit them in their convent in Dunedin, I was always asked to play the piano. So there I was playing the piano to about 50 or 60 nuns.
Did you consider becoming a priest at some stage in life?
I did when I was very young.
Did
you? About 10, 11 or 10.
Wow.
But then I thought about the consequences. Or the lack of consequences. And I gave it away. And anyway, it was much more fun being an artist. Yeah.
Nice.
I had a great deal of admiration for the various clergy that I met. A couple of really nice priests that I knew who looked after me and heard my confession and didn't punish me too hard.
How I don't consider myself a religious man nowadays, but I grew up going to the Catholic Church, and I did the first communion and all this stuff. The concept of the confession was quite challenging for me.
It is.
Yeah.
It still is.
It still is.
Yeah. I mean, they've changed it quite a bit now, because in my day, you went into a box and the priest was sitting in another box alongside, and you spoke to each other through a grill, you know.
Yeah.
And that was pretty spooky. But the thing that I found out was that I ran out of sins.
You ran out of sins?
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything else to say, so I had to invent some sins.
So you got like some credits.
Yeah.
So you could. There you go, Catholic Church. He twisted you. He got you. So you could misbehave. You were paying forward.
Oh yeah. No, they were good. Good people.
Do you still go? Do you still?
No.
No.
Well, I'm there anyway. In the church in New Plymouth, I've done 2 big murals. One of Doubting Thomas and the other one of the Baptism of Christ and the Rocky River and all that sort of thing. And so I'm on the wall anyway, flattened out. Yeah.
So what chapel's that?
That's St. Joseph's.
St. Joseph's
in New Plymouth.
In New Plymouth.
Yeah.
Head on over and check it out.
It's worth a look. It's actually interesting because it's just across the road from the Gavette Brewster Art Gallery, which is a well-known sort of art establishment, and they never send anybody across the road to look at what's on the walls in the church.
Road?
Well, I think it is. I mean, I've actually recently come across a very interesting sort of situation of it. With a lot of my art won't be shown because it'll have children's genitals or something in some part of it,
Right.
And there are about 5 or 6 of my best works I've ever done who will never get into an art gallery now because they've had genitalia.
Yeah.
And then you look at all the history of art. And all the way through it, But
what, the art galleries nowadays they don't want?
No.
What?
No, they won't have a bar of it.
Are you talking about like high ends? Because I feel like maybe more alternative ones, or no? It's just a thing that it doesn't look good.
No, it's more or less a thing. Yeah. I haven't seen a work of art in an art gallery for a long time that had anything to do with. I mean, occasionally a nude would slip through.
Yes.
But very carefully sort of posed and all this. So I was really fond of doing nudes, and I painted my family, and of course half the time I was looking at them, they were having baths or stuff like that. I got some wonderful drawings of the kids playing in one of those lovely big old tin buckets that we used to bathe in.
Wow.
It was great. Yeah.
Wow. I was not aware of that. That's an interesting.
Yeah.
thing.
Well, you can. I mean, if you want to bring it up to date, And there's Sir James Wallace, who's no longer Sir because he's naughty man now. He's been convicted, I think, now of indecent exposure or something. And yet you look at the news on TV and movies and it's all indecent exposure.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, they can crucify a man for that because they wanted. I mean, he was a rich man, so he used his money to buy art, and he started a lot of collections of art, and now he's being punished for having been naughty in this area. Just not publicly so, but just privately so. Perhaps if he'd been publicly so, he would have been better off.
Wow. Michael, I read something that you, for quite a while, you were selling art to help to feed the family, to get some food, to support. Is that true?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
When, I just want to...
That's where the nuns came in handy, because when we were living in Central Otago and places like that, they used to turn up with a half a lamb or something for us to eat. Yeah.
Wow.
And I used to work on the fishing trawlers and things like that to make ends meet. But that's where a lot of my ideas came from for working on fishing trawlers. I got some interesting paintings out of that.
And then you mentioned someone who's got money and started buying art. When you started to become a successful artist, was it something that clicked to you? Like you also started to consume and buy, or you keep that relationship like apart?
No. I just made it. I made art. When I was at art school, at high school, my teacher gave me an easel to paint with, because nobody else was interested. There was a big pile of easels in the art room and nobody ever used. So he gave me an easel and I took it. I still have it. I've carried it all over the world.
Wow.
And my thing was, I wanted to do a painting. I'd put up a board on the easel and I'd get out there and I'd do it. And I didn't used to worry about. In fact, I used to quite enjoy painting in front of people. I used to paint in the middle of the street in New Plymouth, and people would crowd around and look at me. And I wasn't looking for that sort of attention, but you got it anyway.
Right. So
and people would buy them off you. I think it was something around about 30 shillings was a big price for a painting in those days.
Wow, 30.
So that's equivalent to $3, I suppose. Yeah.
Wow.
You get the energy, right, from the streets, from the people watching, and I think you kind of develop a bigger appreciation when you see the artist doing it. You can see it right in front of you that it's happening.
Well, you know, when a singer stands up in front of a crowd and sings, you get the energy from the people that are listening. And if you're an artist and you put yourself in that position, and you get the energy from the people who are watching. And I remember very clearly doing a demonstration of a portrait in Picton, Blenheim, not Picton, and I painted the whole portrait in this part of the show, and I was the show, basically. Everybody came along to have a look at this mad man painting. And so I did. I made a good painting. I used my wife, Elizabeth, at the time, to be the model. And I got one of my first really interesting reviews. And the guy that reviewed me said, "Mr. Smither doesn't look like an artist. He looks more like a pig farmer." I thought, wow, I've made it. You know.
I've made the big time.
I've made it, yeah.
How do you deal with criticism?
I'm.
Or how you used to?
No,
compared to nowadays.
I listen, and it comes at you whether you want it or not, as a rule.
Yep.
And
True that.
And if it comes at you and it doesn't suit you, well, you just ignore it. And if it comes at you and you are impressed by it or moved by it, you can continue to develop that idea. Criticism's a good thing. It's one of the things that's missing around here. In the art world around here, there is no really solid criticism of the work that's going on.
Makes you make better things. You can see from different perspectives, right?
Yeah, well, it makes you take notice of it. And you to have a criticism of a work, you have to have a work that's worth criticising.
Nice.
That it has to have some sort of content that's there to be talked about, there to be wondered about, and I don't see a lot of that around this neck of the woods. I see people painting fantails and more bloody fantails. The fantails sort of become a worn-out, cliched art image. It really has. I mean, I'm sorry because I love fantails. I can remember as a boy with my air rifle, I shot about 40 of them one day.
No one paints the dead ones, eh?
No, but I've been thinking of doing it.
Yeah.
It's one of the paintings I've got in the back of my mind because I remember going out there with Peter Bradley, and we were both crack shooters. We could shoot the eye out of a bird, no problem. And killing things for young men is part of life, and so I did, and I sort of regret it and I don't regret it because at the same time as I was killing those birds, I was learning how valuable they were to me, and I later became very strong about environmental programs.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I had moments when that happened. I remember there was one moment when I was taking my children fishing in the little stream that ran back of our house in central Otago. And when they caught the fish, I said, now you have to eat it. And that got the idea through. They ate the fish of other people caught, but they didn't catch any more themselves.
Yeah, wow.
And that type of instruction to young people is important, I think. I don't know how you do it these days because it's also PC and all the rest of it now. It's hard to know how to go about it. I wouldn't know how to go about it now. Well, I do know how to go about it. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, Taranaki, they had fires on the east coast.
Matariki?
Matariki. Yeah, Matariki, yep.
10 kilometres of fires made from the driftwood on the beach.
Wow.
As a celebration for their idea of what Matariki was about was making an offering of the food. Well, they'd made an offering of the food, but in the process, they destroyed the process. Wow. I mean, they hadn't thought it through. This is one of the problems when religion or religious sort of approaches sort of tend to overcome the reality of life.
Do you feel like that there's something else there, Roy? There's something that connects things?
I have no idea what. Yeah, that's I didn't even know about it,
Yeah.
So because we don't have a TV, we don't watch the news.
Well, there you go. That's probably the best way to approach it, is not have a bloody TV.
I was thinking about that. Do you watch? Do you
we watch the news every night.
News, yeah?
Yeah. We come in, watch the Mike and Molly, and then we watch the chase.
The chase.
Which is interesting, and then we watch the news. And then if we've got any energy left, we'll have a look through Netflix and see if there's something worth watching. Yeah.
There you go. You might put Altbays now on your list and listen to some podcasts as well.
Probably not.
Yes! That's a clip for you. Here we go. That shit goes viral, Michael. Thank you.
Probably not.
Well, I have run into a problem being 83, and I no longer can drive a car, so I'm restricted in various ways that I can behave, and I can't run these machines, the iPods and cell phones and things. I had one of the first cell phones that ever came out. It was in a brick about this big, and you had to carry it on a sack around you, But somehow I used it a couple of times. I remember using it in an exhibition opening, and I used it to pretend to somebody that I was making big sales on this. Oh, 20,000? Yep, right, okay.
Put the tag here, this one is sold.
So I realised that, that it's a very manipulable area of life.
Yeah.
Now, my partner, Gian, who you've run into tonight, she has to do all that for me now. She runs the machine. She runs the machine. I pay the bill.
Michael, how hard it is to price your art?
Prices itself.
It prices itself?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. People will pay anything for something if they want it. If they want a Michael Smither of rock paintings of the Taranaki coast, they'll pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. If they want a nice little drawing of somebody on the beach, they might pay $30, $60 for it. As far as I'm concerned, there's not much difference between the two subjects, but it's what, and the whole art world is built like that. So, but guys now putting up a big exhibition of New Zealand, a big collection of New Zealand art in South Korea. And he actually sent somebody over to have a look at one of the paintings that I had for sale for his exhibition, for his gallery.
Wow.
All the way from South Korea. Yeah,
All the way from South Korea. Do you are there countries that consume Michael Smither's art that you were impressed, or you enjoy how much they value your work?
Well, there's not many. I've done a lot of painting in Australia because 1965 or 60s, and I did quite a lot of painting over that way. And I sold a few things over there, and I've won one or two competitions in Australia, but I don't know. I could be quite well known in Australia. I've had 3 or 4 big exhibitions there, so it's possible. But nobody's asked that question before. I know there are people in the South Island who like my paintings, and there are people in the North Island, and I don't know about Kapiti Island, but
you're working on it that way.
I'm working on it. It's working on it. Yeah, it's working on it.
Tell me a bit more about the screen prints, because from what I understand, that helped a lot to spread the word and to make Michael Smither well known. Can I use that
yeah,
that
you
term?
can use that. That's right. I am quite well known for various reasons, but my father and I used to work together making screen prints. I went to art school in Auckland, and I came back and lived in New Plymouth. I was able to, I knew the technique of making a screen print and stuff because I'd lived with my father making them for all that time. So we got together and we started to make screen prints, and we put them on the market at $6 each. And there's some beautiful images. And then the price went up to $30, a few years later, and now they retail through auctions and things in the thousands. Not high thousands, just 4,000 or 5,000 for a really good one.
Wow.
Was it considered art from the beginning? Or it was a
No,
post?
it was interesting because when I first started doing it, it was considered to be commercialized. And the prints were considered commercial, so they didn't fit into the art thing. Because the art thing was all about etching and lithographs and stuff like that. They were highly involved and developed technical things. My father and I used to cut silkscreen stencils.
Strike one.
Yeah. Out of tissue paper, and we just printed past those. It was an old method developed by the Chinese.
Right. What about the chemicals and all the stuff?
It's pretty tough stuff.
Yeah, I bet.
Because if you were doing a run of prints, say 30 or 40 prints, and you were hanging them all up on a line to dry, the room was just full of toxic gases.
Yep. Wow.
And I don't think it did me any good, and I don't think it did my father any good either. But he used to work for Ivan Watkins Dow, the big chemical company, so they killed him, not the bloody...
Fair enough too, eh?
You into your prints as well, eh, Roy?
Prince.
Print what?
Prince.
Prints.
Am I into my prints?
You get to. It's part of your work, right? To
do prints. Yeah. I kind of like take an original, and I'll stick to doing maybe 8 to 10 prints, and then that's it. Yep. That's how I love to do that, because, and each time I get a print made up, I'll add something to it.
Okay.
And then that makes it original for whoever purchases it. Yep. And if I know the person, or if I know the person, I'll add something personal to just them.
Right, your particular style of making prints is quite different from ours, and I can see how that would be good.
Yeah,
because you can make those alterations and changes, and developments.
Whereas doing it with a screen printer.
Well, we can to a certain extent, because we use the photographic process almost exclusively now for reproductions. We call them reproductions, but they are just prints. They're beautiful prints.
And how would you take them? Like, how would you? What was the process of carrying it? Because when I mentioned to some people, I'm gonna have a chat with Michael Smither, I've heard things like, their art is all over New Zealand. Yeah, like a lot of families have a piece of Michael Smither. How was that process? Like, were you actually doing it, like you and your father, or you had people helping to spread that work?
Yeah,
was it kind of like a strategy, or you were just keen to
produce?
Business.
It was business. We in the early days when we were first starting to produce screen prints, they were often produced in association with pottery shows, with craft shows and things, because they were considered to be at that level of craft. Mind you, now the craft is becoming high. Anyway, that's another thing. So that happened, and then we started to take. My father would pack up the latest print we'd done, put it in the back of the car, and drive off around the country and show them to these people, and they would either buy them or send them home. And we went on doing that for years. It was really, it's a very interesting process.
It worked.
It worked, yeah.
It worked. It's a good process.
Yeah. But what I love about that is that you got to travel around spreading your work.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, we do this.
Yeah. That's right.
Send.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite so personal.
No. No.
Yeah. Do you keep up with what's happening now with artificial intelligence, creating art and all that stuff? Is it something that you follow?
I find it very interesting. I think the whole artificial intelligence thing is a sort of a bomb ready to blow up in our faces.
Yeah, nice. I agree.
I don't think it's of any importance, frankly, because why would you want to do it? The only reason you'd want to do it is to make money out of it. And if that's the only reason, well, it's doomed. Because in any work of art, there has to be the integrity of the thing. I've seen sort of, I've followed it. I get magazines that look at the artificial intelligence thing, and they showed 2 images, and you only after you'd looked at it for a long time, you realise that one of the images had 5 fingers, and the other one only had 4. But
Wow.
because you're so impressed by the technique, by the miracle of copying something to that extent, that you didn't see the reality. There's a film we watched just recently, you might catch it on Netflix, called Vermeer, The Last Vermeer. Vermeer was a very famous European painter, only Dutch, yes. Thank you.
Shout out.
Taking notes. Gian got all the notes.
And he's reputed to have only done 30 works in his lifetime, and you can see why, because they're so delicately painted, beautifully painted. But the film is about a guy who forged them. And he forged them in such a way that nobody knew they were. And in the end, he had to produce a varnish that actually destroyed the paintings. Otherwise, they couldn't believe it had been one of his.
Wow.
So those are the lengths. And of course, this guy, whose name I forget, and I shouldn't forget, Gian. Can't remember his name. Oh, there you go. He made a lot of money out of it in his lifetime, but his lifetime didn't last very long. He dedicated one of his works to Hitler, and that was more or less the end of him.
Wow.
He died, I think it was of a heart attack about 3 weeks after the war ended.
Should artists be worried about the way that things are going?
But, well, I think artists are always worried about the way things are going. If you mean life, or do you mean artificial intelligence?
Because I guess
space travel.
I feel like good space travel would be awesome.
Well, what about
where
going
would
down
you
to
go?
the Titanic, for instance? I mean,
Some people try to go.
Yeah,
down
are
there,
we
didn't
interested
work
in
out.
that? I was very interested in that, and I was sure it was doomed to failure, and I was right. And
Where would you go if you could jump in a the time travel thing machine? Where would you go?
I probably wouldn't go.
You wouldn't go.
I'm quite happy where I am.
Any time in
history?
Yes.
I would quite like to drop in on the Impressionists and people from that period of time, Monet, and it would be quite nice to have been alongside, because they were an interesting group of people. They met in cafes and they talked and argued about art, and they had exhibitions together, and it all happened. Don't get that same feeling any longer. I've been involved in various groups of people in New Zealand and Australia, trying to get groups of artists together to promote the whole idea of art. And it works for a while, but then there's somebody who can make money out of it. They move in and it stops working. So what was the question?
After what you said, I got another question, which is interesting, because it kind of I was thinking about that before the show. Where do you think it comes from? What's the thing with art? That's one of those beautiful broad questions that no one can actually answer, but everyone loves to have a take on it. Is that a muse? Do we pick things? And how does it work for you? What do you think?
I've got eyes. I look at things. I think about things. Those two, that combination of looking at things and the way you think about things is enough to make anybody into an artist if they really think about it. I mean, I've seen the most wonderful drawings, scratches on bits of clay and stuff from guys who worked on the process of building the pyramids. And they're the most beautiful drawings. And they just chucked into the rubbish heap because that's what they did, And they had to express themselves. They must have been really pissed off having to drag stones up and build pyramids all the time. All the time, for these rich pharaohs and things that were getting the whip out and, doing them over.
Do you think we're all artists?
I wouldn't say we're all artists, no. I mean, the word artist is a very widely spread. I used to really object to musicians being called artists because they weren't people that painted like me. But now I'm beginning to see the whole idea of an artist can be how good a high jumper you are. I mean, they're the artists of their time.
Yeah.
The artists of our time are probably making ads. Some of the stuff that comes up on television as ads are incredible.
Yeah. Like this one.
Like that one?
Yeah.
Good. Do you get to meet the people who buy your art, like the original ones, the ones that cost a lot? Are you interested in meeting those people? Do you have to?
I'm interested in meeting them, but I very seldom do. They keep you at a distance because if you sell them something and you're making good money out of it, they don't want you to do the same thing again. They don't want you to go on making money like that.
Yeah. Okay.
You get sort of shunted out by the system. And I mean, you only have to look at the snobbery you walk into any public art gallery and see the way the whole outfit is arranged. It's a pretty girl at the front, letting you in, and there's people walking around in their coats and suits and making sure you don't touch the paintings, and there's a line on the footpath that says you can't go past that line, and it's all controlled. It's absolutely under control.
Why do they do that?
To keep you at a distance, because artists are basically dangerous people. They have ideas. And ideas
are dangerous.
So it's not because someone puts a lot of money into that piece and they don't want to damage it.
Or there's that. They're heavily insured. I mean, a lot of big exhibitions that come to New Zealand now, for instance, from other parts of the world, they can't come here any longer because they can't afford the insurance on the work.
Wow.
It's frightening. The money that things are worth puts them out of the range of people. So now what we've got is these ridiculous exhibitions of photographs of the Sistine Chapel, blown up sort of 20, 30, 40 times their size, which was made by a mad bugger living off eggs that came out of his chicken house and painting his ceiling.
Wow.
Even, you know why he lived out of eggs out of his chicken house? Because he was afraid of being poisoned.
True.
And there was so many other jealous artists, and boy, they were on big pay. The Pope was paying them. They were really in danger of their lives. There's some very interesting history on the lives of artists, I can tell you.
What artist blows your mind? Like that you look at it and you just like, how?
Well, several. Patrick Hanley, New Zealand artist. I tell you something that might interest you. You're going right out into the atmosphere there. I have started watching, on the advice of some friends of mine, a program on TV which you can get while Parliament's in session, or isn't in session, and they show images of New Zealand art. About every 30 or 40 seconds, you see a New Zealand painting comes up on it. It's on Channel 3 with 31. Watch it sometime. It's a mind blower. It's blowing my mind because I actually have been jumping up and down with joy because of it lately, because I've suddenly realised I belong to a group of people who are making art. And these people on these occasions are most come out of collections like the Wellington City Art Gallery or something like that, and they've got a good collection of paintings over the last 100 years, and they're starting to show them to people.
Wow.
I mean, admittedly, it's only in this very tight format, but at least they give you the chance to dial up and go and see the real work if you want to. You know. But I think that's one of the most incredible things. I love it. It's changed my life in a way. I don't feel lonely anymore because a lot of these artists that I see on this channel, 31, are artists I've known.
Wow.
Artists that I've lived next to, and the work that they've produced over the last 100 years. And it gives you a sense of continuance. I don't really care what people are doing in Australia or England or in the United States. I'm very interested in what they're doing in Whitianga and New Plymouth and
nice.
New Zealand, generally speaking, because they're the people that mean something to me.
Yeah.
I don't give a stuff what some guy in USA says.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So if we had, say, a group of rangatahi at the Mercury Bay Area School, what advice would you offer them as for them to grow in the world of art?
Well, I think the process is already there. They would produce the work first, show it so it can be seen, interest people in what they're doing, and if the people are interested enough, they'll buy it and look after it, and it'll become part of local collections, you know, and then it can go to that next step where it can become a New Zealand wide thing. I've been trying to get art galleries in New Plymouth to do that for years. I go into the gallery and they've got, 4 or 5 big galleries, and they might have about 20 or 30 paintings, if you're lucky, up on the wall, and they're there forever. And I say to them, well, why don't you have a TV thing out the front so I can actually ask what's in your collection, so I can see what you've got, and then I can go and ask to have a look at it. But they haven't done it. But now it's beginning to happen. There's a sort of the weight of the value of these works and the way they represent a country or a town, or, that you can get these collections. There are big collections in Dunedin, big collections in Christchurch, big collections in Wellington, Oamaru, Blenheim, and so on, to work your way up the island. Yeah.
I find it interesting the way that we deal with the whole journey of a piece of art, from inspiration for the children, for probably the best thing that you could provide to a child, the access to art, and then suddenly we're all like, oh yeah, it's important, and then we find room for them to show the work, and as we evolve in that idea, it starts to become more like elite and more like niche, and then as you said, it gets harder because there's the space and everybody's looking fancy, and then like it feels to me that then the kids don't care anymore. The young people lose interest because they look at those things that they're like, it's like a museum. Museum usually are the coolest places to go, but there's that idea of, oh, this space is not for us. The same with an art gallery. Where's the missing link there?
It's at the educational level. It's at the teacher-student level. If you've got a teacher that's interested in art and talks to a student about his art, you're on the way. That's all you need. You don't need any more than that. But, I mean, we can't get teachers in our schools to teach the, kindergartens any longer.
Yes. Were you good at school?
No. Was I good at school? Well,
did you enjoy school?
I did enjoy school because I had teachers who I was inspired by. I had a English teacher who inspired me to read poetry and other things, but some of the poems that he inspired me to read are poems that I live with. a good poem, a good Shakespearean poem, those, you know, how many hundreds of years since he wrote them. So the time thing is very interesting. And it needs reiteration. You can't just come out and say, here, I'm going to play this symphony, boom, 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 and play it, and everybody goes away. And if it's not played again the next night, they don't come back.
Wow. Yeah.
That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Were you good at school, Roy?
I was really good.
It didn't sound convinced.
Every single day I was good.
That was good.
School, I can't even remember school. You know, I was...
What do you remember about school?
I think I might have already mentioned it on Altbays before, but one of my fondest memories about school was a teacher in Form 2 in Blockhouse Bay. And the first time that we met him, he rode up on a Harley Davidson, wearing leathers and had long hair, and strutted into the class. And he went, scribbled his name on the blackboard, and he turned around and he says, "Morning, children, my name is Mr. O'Malley." And it was like, what the? Who the? And it was this bikey looking dude that just rode up on a Harley Davidson. It was so cool. And then, over the speaker.
Fanfare.
Yeah, there it is, the fanfare. Good morning, boys and girls. It is time for the national anthem. And we all got up and ready to do the national anthem, and Mr. O'Malley turned around and dragged the chair over and got up and went and pulled the wire out of the speaker and
that's
said,
good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's the experience I was asking for.
Yeah. And he turned around and we were all like, what the? This dude is just out of the gate. And he turned around and he goes, "We won't be doing none of that national anthem." And he walked over and picked up his guitar, took it out of the case, bling, 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 bling. We're going to learn this national anthem. How many roads must a man walk down? And that just, I think maybe that captured my moment of, I want to play the guitar, I want to sing.
Yeah.
I didn't actually play the guitar till I was
Well, the thing is that those experiences were the real experiences of education.
The gems.
The gems that keep you going, that give you a whole lifetimes of ideas to work on.
Yeah. And so for the rest of my life, I've been striving to own a Harley Davidson, and I've got the long hair. It's a little bit grayer now, but I can kind of play the guitar. So, yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Well, thank you for that story. That's great.
That's a great story. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, education. Do you keep up with politics? Is it something that still interests you?
Well, I'm a greenie. I belong
We had Catherine Delahunty 3 weeks ago here.
I believe in the Green Party approach to things. It's very difficult for them. It's as difficult for them as it is for artists. You know, it's in the same sort of box of how the hell do you get it out of the box and get it, into people's minds.
Yeah.
And what you need is somebody like your friend on the Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
So perhaps we should
pull the wire out of the speaker and just go for it. Yeah.
Because the marketing means a lot, right? Want us or not, a good marketing strategy, the way that you present yourself, you need a good strategy to catch people's attention, because it is important that it's politics, but you still want to convince those people to get their bums off the seats and vote and understand what's going on, right?
Yes.
That's enough of politics for tonight.
I love it.
We bring people from different backgrounds, Michael, and I feel like that's what's working here for us. I'm interested in talking to everyone. So we had people from National, from the Green Party, Labour, and it's very interesting to see their strategies, the way that they go about things. So being a good listener, I think it helps, right? What about being a patriot?
A patriot.
Yeah, patriots. Yes, sorry.
Who am I a patriot of? I'm a patriot of human mind, really. It's a dangerous question because I could answer it. You know, it's something you have to be ready to sacrifice your life for.
Aroha mai, what is a patriot?
Well, in my view, someone who would really defend that flag, what it represents to be from a nation, from a space, which I'm not very fond of the idea. You know, like I as you said, I love that. I think I'm gonna steal it. Sorry, the human mind thing. It makes a lot of sense to me. That lines, because I've been dealing with that for 10 years as a foreigner. That just because I was born on this side of the line and someone else was born on this side of the line, suddenly there's a whole idea of who I am and what I represent. Am I a threat? What am I? Because of a couple of steps that divides us. So I'm not a big fan of the idea, but I'm always interested in pick up people's brains on that, because I understand the connection with the place where you're from. For me, that's different from the nation thing.
Yeah, if you're talking about the nation and patriotism, I think you have to be very careful, because nations go to war with each other because they say they're patriots. South Korea, North Korea, Mexico, USA. If that's patriotism, I don't want it.
West Auckland, South Auckland.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You got Order of Merit in New Zealand. That's cool. That's not for many people.
No, I don't suppose so. A bit of a surprise to me, but I accepted it on the basis that I was accepting it.
We're just, ladies and gentlemen, we're just being...
Merit, not the Order of Merit.
Sorry.
It's different.
Different. Yes, sorry.
CNZM.
Gianni's here.
Shout
Gianni's
out.
here.
Yeah. Okay. Where were we? Not anywhere in particular, just bloody politics, really. Politics is something you have to make your own mind up about. And when you've got other people making up your mind for you, it's a waste of time. You're better off, going out and banging your head on a brick wall.
It's what a lot of people end up doing anyway.
It is. And they're doing it, I think, for instance, to put it into context, ram raids. What's it about ram raids? That's young people who are bored out of their minds with nothing to do but listen to stupid people telling them to go out and destroy something.
Yep.
And if we're not careful, that sort of attitude can leak right through a whole society and become part of our way of life. And it rapidly is becoming. And it's all to do with inviting other people like Indians and Chinese to come and open up dairies. What the hell's that? What's going on? Why do we hate Chinese and Indians dairies? I don't hate them. I would dare say at least 50% of people don't hate them. A lot of us use them, and yet we will tolerate this sort of behaviour.
Against them.
Yeah. Where are the people coming out and saying, hey, stop it, why are you doing this, and let's do something about it? Now we're talking politics, you see.
Yes. Social issue, isn't it?
It's a very important social issue, because those young people are the very people that we'll be asking to go and fight for us. Join the army. Somebody said the other day that the last really good politician who came out and said anything was the man that sent the vessel up to the Mururoa atoll to try and stop the atomic bomb explosions. Do you remember his name?
Started with D.
Norman Kirk.
Yeah. And he's literally the last one from the political system of this country, which includes the Maori system, the other systems, the various other ways we run things. He was the last. Will there be another?
Are you an optimistic?
No, I'm not very optimistic. I'm sorry. I
Don't have to be sorry.
When it comes down to it, I'd like to sort of say, woohoo, worry, yep, I'm an optimist, everything's great. But one of the things about getting older is two things can happen to you. You can get worse or you can get better. And I've just got worse when it comes to optimism. I can't. I mean, I'm living in a society on a beach called Otama, where people cut the trees down because they don't like the view. Interestingly enough, I went over for a walk to close where the trees are today, and I had a look over the edge of the cliff, and the sea is eating away underneath the cliff.
Yep.
A good sort of 3 or 4 yards of land is missing, and it's only this lip of grass hanging over the edge,
Wow.
which should be all trees.
Actually, one of the first times that I met the both of you was at the steps going down onto Otama.
Yeah.
And since then, it's the amount of whenua that's gone from there is amazing.
It's frightening.
Yep, very.
It's frightening.
And we used to get that. So I've seen a lot of posts on the Whangapawa site where, people are going, oh no, the beachfront, we've lost 3 metres of it. Yeah, okay. Oh no, and there's a drop of like 20 feet. Yeah, okay. But it always happened.
Yeah.
And it always came back.
Yep.
But this time, there's a lot of whenua that's gone, and I don't think that's coming back.
It isn't coming back.
No.
Because we've got two things happening. We've got people being stupid, and we've got the landscape being angry.
Yep.
If you look at the sky any day of the week now, it looks different to the way it used to look. It's angry.
Yep.
The sea's angry.
Yep. You look at the. We noticed it a couple of years back when we used to. My partner's whānau owned a batch in Opito, and actually, my wife, her family owned a batch in Opito, and when we used to travel into Kuatunu, I remember saying to her, wow, look at all the slips. Look at all the slips up in this part of the whenua. And then we'd get over the hill, and of course there would be 1 or 2 in the backdrop. And that's when I realised, actually, the space is angry. It's sad, it's broken, it's hurt.
It's hurting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like when you end up getting sores on your own body, so the whenua is showing those sores. It's
We're directly responsible for a large part of the whole erosion thing in New Zealand, all over the country. Yeah.
Would you say all over the world?
I would say all over the world. I'm not that, I don't know too much about the rest of the world.
That's right.
But I've seen 1 or 2 magazines that seem to be. There's a lot of work going into it, and there's a lot of crap going into it at the same time.
Yeah.
How do you divide the good things from the horrible things that are happening, the plastics and all the rest of it. You know.
Mm.
Well, last year I was at a party and I said to people, well, what you're going to have to do with the plastic, you have to learn to eat it. I thought I was joking, but it's happening.
Yeah.
We are eating it
We
now.
are eating it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember you saying once, Michael, I think was at one of the exhibitions, or I just remember something that you said about people buying your art and waiting for you to die. so the art could be more expensive or whatever. Do you fear death?
No, I don't fear death, but I'm not looking forward to it. And it gets harder and harder to actually tolerate life when you see the things that are happening all around you and I'm sort of not going to use that as an excuse, but I do think it affects my state of mind. Living across the road from a group of trees that have just been cut down to their hedge size by the locals who think it's to do with their view. I mean, the sea has a view too, and it's obviously going to reinstate its view.
Yeah, it's doing quite well at the moment.
We got a question from the audience. Is that right, Taylor?
Yes.
I can't see it. Do you have it there for us? Was it Helen? It's not opening here for me. Oh, no, I can see.
Boom.
Sorry. Emma Gustafsson, amazing artist.
Yep.
Kia ora, Emma.
Kia ora.
Hi, guys. I have just tuned in. Would love to know what's been his favorite artwork he's worked on or most meaningful project, if this topic hasn't been covered yet. No, I haven't asked this question, Emma, so perfect. And we're coming towards the end of the show, so that's a cool question. Could you tell me a bit your favorite pieces or projects, please?
My favourite project was the restoration of the coastline in Taranaki by reintroducing the driftwood.
Wow.
And I actually made constructions, and I took children into a big space, and I said, now, how are we going to stop the sand getting in here? And we built stuff out of little bags and stuff. And eventually I got the hold of the council, got them interested. And they said, well, what are we going to do about this terrible erosion? I said, well, first of all, you've got to take all the stuff that you've put on top of the cliff and shove it over the cliff into the sea. And they thought I was mad, but I was mad anyway, so they had excuse.
Excellent.
And we over about a space of about 4 years, we did a project which restored beaches off the coast of New Plymouth, basically. And then we got the sack. And they went back to doing their old stuff, So, but I consider that to be one of my most interesting jobs, because I used to get out there every morning. I'd sign up the diary and put the weather forecast for the day in, and I'd have a group of PEP workers who came with me, and we went along the beach collecting driftwood and putting it into piles, making it into shapes that would catch the wind and catch the sand. And we were very successful. We used to put a stick in the middle of the pile that we were working on, put a little flag on the top of it, and the flag would be gone in a day or two, couple of tides. The sand had built up over it, and that was proof enough for me. And then I tried to make a film about it, and that turned out to be a bit of a disaster, because the film was more or less about what bad things that were happening, but very little about the good things. And that's been the story of my life, really.
Do you have a piece of art that you look at it from everything that you've done, or a collection or something that it takes you back to a time that you are grateful and proud of yourself, or how does that work with your babies, with your art?
I've painted so many paintings now. There's a good book called Michael Smith, The Artist, put together by Ron Sang, the architect in Auckland, who's now dead. I don't know whether it helped kill him, but it didn't help him stay alive. He had to go to China and have it printed and all that sort of thing. And I'm very pleased with that book. I remember Gian was about to take off to go and see friends of hers in London, I think. And we sat at the airport and I said, well, what are we going to do? So let's do it make a book out of it, all these paintings. And I collected paintings. I spent about 5 or 6 years collecting paintings from images.
Wow.
From all over the country and putting them together in a book in order of when they occurred and why they occurred and a bit of stuff with them. It's a very beautiful book. You'll have a hell of a hard job finding a copy of it now. We printed 3,000, I think, at the time, which was considered far too many, but they're all gone now.
Wow.
So that project was something that I shared with Gian, was very important to me and has done a lot for me as a matter of publicity, as a matter of actually showing people what I've done and when I did it and why I did it. It has gone on working for me. It's gone on working while I've gone on working anyway. But so that's important. So there you've got two things. You've got the coastal erosion solution to it on film, totally ignored. And you've got the book, which is out of print.
Wow.
What's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life.
No pressure.
No pressure. Just the last question. We have time.
I need another bucket.
Nice. Did you kick the other one over?
That's the meaning of life. The comedians, those great guys that on the bright side of life, while he's hanging on the crucifix. I think that probably is the sign of our times.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Smither. Thank you so much, Michael. So cool, man. That's first of all, shout out to Christina Rabarts for letting me know that you were in town a couple of months ago, that I got to meet you, both of you, and we had a great chat. Thank you so much for your patience, for how kind you are to the people who are keen to have a korero with you. So thank you so much for doing this. It means a lot to us.
Good.
Roimata? Always a pleasure, my brother. Always.
Kia ora, bro.
Thank you.
I've got 74 other questions that I didn't get a chance to ask, so I'll come around one day. We'll have a cup of tea and a coffee and a bicky.
Let me know when you're coming.
I'll let you know when I'm coming. And if you're not there, I'll go fishing.
There's no more trees to hide, Michael.
Yeah.
He'll see you ducking, man. He'll see you ducking and hiding. Thanks, Jam.
No, it's been very nice sharing the table with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, crew. And for you guys watching us at home, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Always a pleasure. Well, we got some news, right? So we're moving to a new studio in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So there's going to be some changes with our time for the show just for that period. But we're coming back stronger with a beautiful new space. So stay interested. Kakite. Peace.